What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, guys. I think a pretty interesting video for you guys today, and it's all about artifacts. Let's dive right into it. And welcome back to the video, guys. So we're going to be talking about artifacts, specifically mythic artifacts. Legendary artifacts are important for certain people, for certain situations, but today I want to talk specifically about those shiny red artifacts. And the reason is because I've gotten my hands on a few of them and I want to do some comparisons. Now, if you've watched the channel in the past, you already know that I do have Setram's exclusive. I talked very extensively about how I thought that the exclusive for Setram was a very good exclusive to pick up from the event when it was available. And I went ahead and I picked it up, and it has done wonders for me in terms of various different game modes, including Guild Boss, Immortal Codex, and various other things. Now, the question though becomes is it better than, for example, a max spirit siphon? And I think that it sort of depends, right? I think one of the biggest things to note is this is my spirit siphon. This is my only spirit siphon, which is the important piece of information that I think you should keep in mind is that is a spirit siphon going to give more damage to a Cetrum than his exclusive artifacts? And the answer to that is probably yes. However, because of the fact that I only have this one copy of Spirit Siphon and I am using Hex in my guild boss um, battles, right? I don't have is Hex's exclusive. Say that 10 times fast. Jeez. I don't have Hex's artifact, right? So I have to use something good on Hex, and Spirit Siphon is the answer to that question. And so I'm using Spirit Siphon on Hex and then using Cetrum's exclusive on him, which is actually very powerful. It does do some very good things for the battle, that is for sure. It does mess with some of the timings because he is in his repair phase for just a little bit longer as well. But Cetrum is really only there for breaking the shield. That's the only real reason that he exists in this team. He is, of course, very helpful in dealing actual damage as well, but primarily he's there for breaking the shield. And so, as long as he's able to get the ultimate duration during that shield, that is what matters. But we have a couple other exclusive artifacts that I think are very interesting. And one of the ones is one that I've pulled a little while back and is going to be, in my opinion, very powerful in the upcoming Immortal Codex boss. If you didn't already know, we have a new Immortal Codex boss that has been released for this iteration of the Immortal Codex, and that is the Tank boss. And what I mean by the tank boss is it is literally our entire goal to survive as long as possible while blocking a very large number of enemies. And so, exclusive artifacts such as the Soul Crucible for Azor are actually really powerful when you are missing a specific other artifact that goes by the name of Bastion Ring, or as it was previously known, Oleg's Wall. Um, because this is a very good artifact. However, I only have 3 Bastion rings. And guys, I'm going to have to place 6 tanks in this next iteration. So what does this Bastion ring allow me to do? It allows me to put it on 3 different people, which means I have 3 other artifact slots to fill. Soul Crucible is one of those artifact slots that I am more likely than not going to use. Now, although the exclusive is relatively equal in terms of power, in my personal opinion, because the physical and magical damage reduction for every blocked unit, in my opinion, is actually very powerful for tanks, right? Because assuming you have a base tank of 3 block, you're going to have 4 block from the Bastion Ring, which means you're getting 16% physical and magical damage reduction, which is a very large amount. And don't even think about how much more you're going to be getting from someone such as Avalyn, who has like a ridiculously high 4 or 5 block, or in a Soul Day, right? When she uses her ultimate, you're going to get an additional block as well. So you're looking at 20 to 24, 28 even potentially percent block, magic and physical damage reduction. However, the Soul Crucible fills a role in this specific situation, and that specific situation is giving me another mythic artifact that has increased block Now, it's not as powerful as the Olog's Wall because it is only during Azor's ultimate. However, it is still very powerful to have that additional block when you may need it, especially because you may not need it all the time. And so you're getting a little bit of extra bonus here in, for example, in terms of stunning and some additional HP healing, which could be very good, especially because I'm unsure if we have access to a platform in this stage, but I'm assuming we don't. And so having some form of self healing, like Azor's exclusive artifact here, boosting the amount of healing that he receives, could be very, very powerful. And that's kind of where I think exclusive artifacts come in, is that they are sort of, for most people, they're going to be exclusive artifacts are going to be very good in certain situations, right? However, there are some situations where the exclusive artifact is the best option. For example, Winter's Call, the exclusive artifact for Voroth, which again was available in a shop, is probably the best artifact that Voroth can use. And that's because it's built for him. During the ultimate, each attack deals extra damage equal to 1 times the current speed. So keep in mind that his ultimate gives him 800 initial speed, stacking up to 1400 initial speed. And this is, of course, not including any gear you may have on him. Now, I don't remember the exact amount of speed I was able to build onto him, but I believe it was north of 500, maybe 550. So if you take that 550 and you add in this additional 1400, you're looking at, let's just round it up to 2000 attack speed, which means every single hit for a 15-second period is going to deal an additional 2000 damage. Now, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it definitely does add up, especially because you're looking at attacking probably when you're at this point, I would assume twice a second, maybe a little more, maybe a little less than that, but roughly twice a second, which means you're looking at 4,000 damage per second over 15 seconds. That really starts to add up, right? So that is something to keep in mind when you're setting these up, is that sometimes the exclusive artifact is just the strongest artifact that they can use. There are other exclusive artifacts that I have access to. Let me see if I can find some of them, because I don't actually have the heroes that use them. Can I search? Let's do it by acquisition. Actually, we can just do it like this. Duh. Okay, so we have Salazar's exclusive artifact, for example, right? So Salazar's exclusive artifact deals 20% more damage to targets inflicted with bleed. Every time the ultimate deals damage to targets inflicted with bleed, the hero restores 1.5% rage. Well, what does this mean? This means that he's going to ultimate more, right? Not only does he have the 20% more damage to bleed, which if we go and we look at something like a Scarlet Hunt is equal in power, right? Both of them give 20% damage to targets inflicted with bleed. Salazar is a bleed champion, which means bleed will almost always be available on the opponents that he's fighting. But also, anytime he uses his ultimate and it deals damage to targets inflicted with bleed, he restores 1.5% of his rage, which means he's going to be able to ultimate a lot more, and Salazar does a lot of damage with his ultimate. More likely than not, in almost every situation, Salazar's Bloodblade exclusive artifact is going to be better than any damaging artifact that exists that he can use, right? There are probably some situations, again, I don't have all of the math. I would love to test it, but I don't have Salazar. So let me know in the comment section down below. Do you have Salazar? Do you have his exclusive artifact? Can you tell me which is better? More likely than not, it's probably Bloodblade in most situations, I would assume. However, there are some situations where the exclusive artifacts are not necessarily the best option. One of those situations is going to be Abomination. And the reason that I say this is because although Abomination is very specifically targeted at his ultimate, this is a one-time thing. It only lasts for a very brief moment, right? All this does is increases initial rage by 450. Now, this isn't bad. This puts him at almost half ult charge as soon as the battle starts. The problem with that is once that happens, this artifact is practically useless. So in this case, very rarely are you going to want to use Abomination's exclusive artifact, because you're going to probably be better off using something like an Eye of Sin, or a Scarlet Hunt if you're fighting with bleed, or any of the other very powerful fighter artifacts like Wailing Skull, etc. And so odds are this artifact is not going to be used that often. Now, the good thing is it's possible that they buff these mythic artifacts that are exclusive. For example, if they were to make this and increases initial rage by 450 and then something along the lines of like increases rage generation or something over time, or maybe even something like when in permanent ultimate, when gaining rage, deal extra damage or heal yourself or something like that to make it more valuable, could make this exclusive artifact that much stronger, in which case it would be more worth to use. However, most of the time, this artifact is kind of lacking and other artifacts will be better. However, there is one other thing that I want to discuss. I'm going to make further videos talking about specific champions and actually testing these champions with their exclusives versus not their exclusives to just actually see how much damage they're able to do, especially now that we have access to the playtest mode in Guild Boss. It will be very easy for me to do that. So I will be doing that. So stay tuned for those. Make sure to subscribe so you can see that content in the future. But one of the other things that I wanted to mention in this video is actually something that's been mentioned before by me and Fastidious in one of our collabs that we did. And that was that the biggest boost that the exclusive artifact gives, whether the exclusive artifact is good or not, is when it comes to BP. If we go and we look at my Setrum, he has 95,167 BP. He has currently a 10 out of 10 Oblivion pendant, which is his exclusive. Now let's go down here and let's find a plus 25 legendary artifact. And let's equip it. You'll notice that we lose 3,455 BP. Now you'd think that this would be better in most situations than not, right? But something that's important to keep in mind is look at these HP and these attack stats. Even at plus 10, it has more HP and attack than a legendary artifact. And now you're probably thinking, well, Panda, I mean, of course it does. It's mythic. Well, let's compare this to another mythic artifact. So let's go ahead and let's take a level 1 mythic artifact, which is 2200 and 777, and we'll see that we gain 409 from the legendary artifact. And then let's go and let's grab a plus 10. We'll take this sharpshooter crest from our hot soot, and you'll see that we gain 794 BP. Now, this plus 10 mythic artifact is the exact same level as this plus 10 Setrum artifact. However, watch what happens when we replace it. We gain 2,252 BP. This is a very large number. And I know you're probably also thinking now, well, who cares about BP? If Sharpshooter's Crest does more damage than Oblivion Pendant, I'm going to use that. And there's absolutely a true statement. However, there's one game mode where this is very, very beneficial. And don't get ahead of me here because you're probably already thinking it. And that is Tide. Tide is all about BP. You need to have as much BP as possible in order to fight these waves. Don't make fun of me on my 135. I haven't sat down and tried recently, okay? But Tide BP is the most important thing in order to have the ability to beat waves. And so having exclusive artifacts available, even if they're bad, like for example, on my Abomination, I would come in here and I would put on his exclusive artifact and look at the BP that I'm going to gain. I actually lost BP. That's weird. I think it's because I was using a plus 16, right? Yeah, so a plus 16, it does actually end up giving more. If I were to take this to plus 10, it would be more, but I'm not going to level it. But ultimately, the point I'm trying to make here is that more likely than not, the artifact, if it's exclusive, is going to be better than the artifact if it's not exclusive, right? If I take this plus 10 and plus 10, let's actually look at this because I'm actually not sure. Let's test this Spirit Siphon. I actually do gain some. So there is a point. Unfortunately, I can't test exactly what that point is because I don't have any mythic artifacts that are like, at that second tier. Um, but ultimately, more likely than not, a exclusive artifact is going to give you more BP than that of a regular mythic artifact. So just something to keep in mind. Um, I think that that's going to do it for this video. I just wanted to do a quick overview on the difference between exclusive artifacts and mythic artifacts. Like I said, I am going to be doing some actual testing videos here to kind of look at the damage output of the different characters with their ultimates, with their, just overall damage with their exclusives and without their exclusives. So stay tuned for that. But that's going to be it for me today, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Again, don't forget to hit that like button, leave a comment down below, and hit that subscribe button so you can be notified when all my content goes live in the future. Help me mount that algorithm, and I'll see you